welcome to our Why Jesus podcast. It is so nice to be back with all of you today and with Marilise as we go into the next step of the natural healing process. This is part 3, but also actually part 2 of what we were touching on last week with the whole gut healing process, which is absolutely awesome information as far as I'm concerned. And Marilise is going to take us through a bit of a recap on what we spoke about last week. There's some nice resources that she's got for you to go and consult with as well. And then also just to highlight to everyone that this is not medical advice in terms of, you going against what your physician is telling you to do. If you are working with a physician, please take this to your doctor. Do not come off any medication that you may be on until you've actually discussed this whole process with your doctor. Do your own research. And what we are sharing is basically for knowledge and excitement because it works for us. So there you go. Marilise, please take over.
Thank you. It's great to be back with you and with your audience, and just agreeing on the point that yes, we're not offering medical advice. My aim here is to hopefully offer insight into how I believe our bodies were designed and beautifully, wonderfully created. And when we connect on that level, when we, how should I say, cooperate on that level, then we can see our bodies thrive and we support it to do the healing work. So that is our aim. I like the idea of clients researching and taking accountability of their own health. Unfortunately, when you type an objective question in a search engine, you're not going to get an objective reply. So unless you know where to search, you could end deep in the woods, I think a golfing term. So some of the doctors that I follow and listen to and used information of is obviously Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, and I think you will post her new website address with this talk. Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, Dr. McBride, Dr. Michael Eades, who performed extensive paleopathological studies in how the body was designed and why we recommend to eat the way we do on this channel and in this series. So, of course, last week we used a lot of Dr. McBride's information, who healed her own son of autism and explained why the root of autoimmune, chronic disease, even mental health, is in the gut. And a permeable gut lining is a major issue for toxins to enter straight into the bloodstream and eating allergies and a variety of issues that arise as a result. We established, based on our design and how we were created, that humans with a high stomach acid does actually not have the right bacteria in the right place to digest and absorb plant material properly. So you'll have to listen to last week for more detail on how that works. But as a result, we cannot get nutrition from plants. Our vitamins and minerals and nutrition cannot come from plant material. Our bodies are designed to get our main nutrition from animal protein and animal fat. Okay. And in that, the gut microbiome, having an abundance of good bacteria, having a good healed gut lining is critical. And just to complete the recap, using any supermarket bought food, it has been sprayed with glyphosates, and that is almost like taking antibiotics multiple times a day. And that is why with just carrying on eating the way we do, cannot offer healing to our bodies. Okay. So I think the audience would all have heard about essential carbohydrates. No. Essential fatty acids, essential amino acids. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. Does the brain need glucose? Yes, it needs some glucose, but not from carbs. The liver actually makes glucose from protein in a process called gluconeogenesis. I think it's good to touch here on the muddy subject of cholesterol, because I think it might be a common fear among many of our listeners that they might increase their cholesterol levels to a dangerous point and put themselves at risk of heart disease when they eat an animal protein and fat-based diet. So I'm going to try and touch on it, considering it's very contentious and very sensitive, and hopefully just offer a little bit of insight to put our listeners at ease. Okay, so the cholesterol hypothesis has not been scientifically proven to affect heart health negatively. A particular study that was used was unfortunately really flawed, but extensively used as law all over the Western world for many decades now. And it's been debunked multiple times. So I'd like to emphasize what the body uses or needs cholesterol for. And on the flip side, you will hear what will then not happen in your body if you take a medication that synthetically, chemically reduces your cholesterol levels. Okay, so cholesterol is required for brain function, mood, and memory. The retina of the eye specifically requires cholesterol. About half of your cell membrane is made up of cholesterol. So, you know, the structure of the cell is super important, and the membrane needs to be permeable to let good stuff in, to let bad stuff out, basically. So on a cellular level, it's critically important to have enough cholesterol to have a strong and effective or efficiently functioning cell membrane. Cholesterol protects cells and our central nervous system. It's involved in making bile, the detergent to help break down and use fats. It's essential for assimilating essential fatty acids and fat-soluble vitamins. So to make vitamin D, to help make bile, to help you absorb your fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. It's the raw material precursor for stress hormones. Of course, we need cortisol for some functions. It's required to create any of the steroidal, the sex hormones as we know them. It's involved in making myelin, the lipid layer around nerve cells. And there's a particular disease associated with the breakdown of myelin and nerve cells. It helps feeds our immune system because cortisol helps control white blood cells. So it helps fight infection and bad bacteria. And maybe I can just briefly offer a little bit more explanation. So LDL, low density lipoprotein, and HDL, high density lipoprotein, are actually the protein capsules that transport cholesterol. So LDL transports cholesterol from the gut and the liver to the intestinal tract, the blood, and the tissue, where HDL brings the excess cholesterol back to the liver. LDL transports cholesterol into the arteries as a healer, a bandage. The artery is already clogged when the cortisol arrives there. It's trying to do a healing work. To see why the artery has damage, that's something we do in our consultation. It's got to do with calcium dysregulation. Not for this talk now, but just to explain that it's almost like where there's a fire, there will be a fire engine, but the fire engine didn't cause the fire. Okay? I think it's important for us to understand that high cholesterol does not mean you're consuming too much fat, or that you can lower your cholesterol by a low-fat diet. About 75% of the cholesterol that you would measure with is made by the liver. And only about 25% is dietary. If you're getting less dietary cholesterol, the liver will try and make up for it in a negative feedback loop. And the actual issue is not the cholesterol level, but the triglycerides. So we can look at the HDL triglyceride ratio, and that will actually give us a better idea of what's going on. And triglycerides would just mean that you consuming, it's the blood fat. It's the, insulin is converting insulin converting hormone that makes triglycerides high. Triglycerides is involved in the fat in the blood that comes from sugar. So to reduce your triglyceride level, just stop eating sugar and carbs. It's really quite simple. And then there's nothing damaging in that whole ratio that you need to worry about. The problem is if you force a lower cholesterol level, all these benefits that we mentioned are going to be compromised in your body. I hope that makes sense. You can talk about more detail and what could be specific in your body. Goed. So let's get more into diet and weight and calories and all these exciting things that I think many of our listeners will be interested in. I don't think calories in versus calories out is a good way of dealing with any weight issues. And if that worked, I think millions more people would have a healthy weight and a lean body. Remember also, you can be skinny and not healthy and malnourished. Your weight doesn't always say whether you're healthy or not. When you look at calories versus the quality of the food you eat, you might compromise on quality. Now, let's say you decide, okay, this rice cracker is really low in calories. I'm going to fill up on 3 rice crackers over lunch. My stomach will be relatively full and I have very few calories in. Problem with that is as follows. Apart from the toxicity of grains and all of that, is that it's going to spike your insulin. So when we look at weight, we have to consider insulin. We'll get to leptin again just now. But the main thing about insulin is that it's a fat storing hormone. You cannot burn fat when your insulin is high. Therefore, by eating any plant material, including grains, but even other plants, you would typically spike your blood sugar, and the insulin would match the blood sugar to deal with that in the blood, and it's preventing you from burning fat. It's actually creating fat storage. So eating fat doesn't make you fat. Eating sugar and carbs is really what spikes your insulin and therefore creates excess fat. There's a couple of other mechanisms involved, but I think that's critically important to understand. It's about the quality of what you eat and considering the blood sugar effect. That could be a major key in your pursuit of a healthy weight. Maybe we can just briefly insert here referring to our first talk that referred to healthy light and bad light, a blue light environment. So our Wi-Fi, LEDs, our screens, like we're sitting in front of now, my blue light glasses aren't close because we were initially starting to record outside. Blue light, apart from all the other damage it does, spikes our blood sugar and our insulin independent of what we eat. So you can literally become diabetic by being in front of screens and Wi-Fi the whole day. And often many of us are the whole night as well. It's from the TV to the bed where the Wi-Fi router is and your phone's charging next to you and all that stuff. It's like eating cheesecake, but you're not eating anything. So that is a crucial point in what can completely ruin your diet or weight loss efforts. And in our consults, we will look at what your lifestyle is like. What are your major toxic contributors, where your gut health is, and what would work specifically in your life to help mitigate these harmful things. Good. So 2 major hormones in our weight would be insulin, that we refer to now, and the other is leptin, that we also refer to in the light talk. So leptin is a hormone deeply connected to our weight and our metabolic function, and that is completely dependent on light. So here we look at circadian rhythm, at our light signals. So what messages do we send our body through our eyes by the light we get and the time we eat? If we eat late at night, it tells the body it's absolutely not sleepy time, it is wake time, and we work on digestion. It harms your circadian input. That has a whole ripple effect. But when you do something and the light signals we get through our eyes is critical in a lot of things, a lot of functions. That circadian rhythm thing is crucial for mood and immune system and a whole lot of stuff. But in terms of weight, it impacts your leptin level. And I think that could also be a critical key for our listeners that might have really battled through all their lives. And the calories in, calories out ratio is not making sense because they don't see the right results. And I think in the last 5 minutes, some light bulbs would possibly be going on. Okay. Good. So just a few more hopefully helpful points. When you make the switch to a more carnivore, animal-focused based diet, it probably will take about 3 weeks for the body to switch in getting its energy from fat versus the typical glucose. So that is an adjustment period. You would probably still be going through some cravings at the time. So after a meal, the pancreas is used to secreting insulin. It's a very small part of the pancreas, by the way. It works extremely hard if you're eating high blood sugar foods and you know, it has to secrete insulin all the time. So let's say you have a healthy, nice, fatty dinner, and that is actually what you're supposed to eat, and you're actually not hungry. Remember, fat is what will keep your blood sugar stable. But the pancreas is used to secreting insulin. So off it goes out of habit, and that could make you seriously crave carbs because now it doesn't have the blood sugar to match the insulin that's secreted. And that's just the insulin talking. It's not that you actually need carbs. It is just getting used to and getting the body switched over to find its energy from the fats you consumed. Okay. Other thing
That's good to know.
It will happen. It'll happen that you actually, you are so content with what you eat that you completely stop craving. It's just for the mechanisms to adjust and to get used to the new way of doing things. Other important point is when you obviously start eating animal-based, your blood sugar levels will stabilize and your insulin requirement should become very low. In those first few weeks when your body is adjusting, it's critically important to make sure you're getting the right minerals. And maybe next time we can talk about electrolytes, minerals, and other supplementation. That will be a critical time to make sure you're getting enough minerals. That's also got to do with blood sugar regulation. Maybe a good time to mention that when might you feel that an animal-based diet does not work for you? What are those factors that could drastically impact the success and enjoyment of the journey? Minerals, as we just mentioned. So a lot of people don't get enough minerals in, and that is something I see as an exception in supplementation. There is very, very little supplementation you need, or you might need some things for short periods. I do see minerals as an exception because we actually cannot get it in through natural means unless you're completely living in the bush and you accessing your water from a stream and it's real live water and you're actually living close to nature where you would get your minerals in. So nothing we consume in the city can actually give you enough minerals naturally. Okay, so 4 things that could negatively impact your carnivore journey and make it seem like it doesn't work for you. Firstly, minerals. Secondly, not having enough bile or stomach acid. So that used to be me. It was like, oh, red meat makes me feel uncomfortable and it feels like it's in my stomach forever and all of that. I ruined my stomach acid and my bowel secretion by a poor diet for a very, very long time. Obviously, when someone's gallbladder has been removed, like in your case, there's some bowel support required. It's actually quite simple to fix, and Glenn from Quantum Life is working on a new thing right now that's natural and seems extremely effective. I'll be sure to let the audience know. And also to increase your stomach acid again, you can do it naturally over a period, but to get some help with it is short-term, not expensive, and we deal with that in the consultations. When your gut microbiome isn't right, so you don't have enough good bacteria, we need to fix that. And obviously the gut lining thing that we've been talking about is also important in this process. And then lastly, when we don't eat a variety of animal portions. So the whole idea that your little expensive fillet steak that's low in fat is a great source of nutrition is actually not the case. In times gone by, they didn't rate that muscle meat as anything at all. Now it's our most expensive meat. But when we can get to a point of consuming the whole animal, basically like it would have been on a farm many, many years ago, tail to nose or nose to tail, and knowing what to do with that, that can give our bodies a full spectrum of the nutrition that we need. So you'll be getting more collagen, more good fat, the hyaluronic acid, and a lot of the nutrients that you need for, well, also a bit of fiber. All the fiber you need is there, and gut healing components that I think is critical for a health journey when we're looking at almost all of us having gut damage from diets and medication and so on. So something I think useful to remember there. I think a lot of this might sound very, very drastic to a lot of people. You know, our typical South African diet will be eating just about anything and everything. But I say to my clients that your level of commitment to healing your gut and cleaning up your nutrition will be determined by the level of health or change that you need. So if you come to us with, well, you won't, oh, sorry, helicopter. If you come to us with no, well, you won't come to us with no issues, but if there's some serious issues to resolve, I think you have nothing to lose by trying something like this that involves gut healing and giving your body the nutrition it needs to feed your tissue, your cells, and your brain for neurotransmitters. What is there really to lose? So the level of commitment might seem drastic, but that is completely determined by the level of healing that's required and the level of health you want to attain. Maybe you have forgotten how good you can feel when your energy is intact and your health is intact, and you can jump out of bed and be ready for the day and tackle it, you know, with all the challenges that they are.
Exactly. And, you know, just to quickly say here, Marlies, a lot of people don't realize just how much overloading the body with sugar, how it impacts our emotional state, but also how it turns to acidity and then attacks the joints. So I can't remember the name of the documentary. Shucks, I've been trying to think of it and I just can't get to it. There was a documentary, I don't know if it was on the Discovery Channel or if it was on Netflix, and was all about sugar, what sugar actually does to the body, but also to our behavior, and how it affects our ability to cope with stress, manage moods. So when there's copious amounts of sugar being consumed all the time, not only is it going to now cause inflammation and weight gain, it also completely debilitates our ability to cope with stress and other emotional pressure that comes our way. Hopefully I'll try and find the name of that documentary. But if anybody is doubting what Marlies is saying here, I mean, sugar, just do research on what sugar does to the body. What they did to consumers, and this is a good couple of years ago, where they introduced corn syrup into products. And there was a whole sort of, some people say it's a conspiracy theory. It's actually a reality, a truth of why they put corn syrup into food. And just all these additives and preservatives and colorants that are added to the food that cause so much disruption and damage, and not just to us as adults, but the impact it has on children, and how that is in actual fact got such a big impact on the diagnoses of ADD, ADHD, and all kinds of other child issues, which you covered last week, Marlies, in talking about Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride and healing her son of autism. So there is so much to be said about how bad sugar is for our bodies on so many levels.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm pleased you emphasize that point. You know, sugar is more addictive than cocaine.
Yeah.
And it is initially really hard to get off sugar, and it's a chemical addiction. Unfortunately, it became somehow, with this whole it's supposed to eat low fat, low cholesterol thing, sugar was kind of the replacement for taste and feeling good, and generally considered medically more acceptable. You can have the most severe diagnosis, and no one looks at the impact of sugar and grains on those kind of things. So everything you just mentioned in terms of mental health, being able to concentrate, your behavior, sugar and grains, let me just say, wheat spikes your blood sugar more than sugar itself. So
Wow.
it's not just the cane sugar granule, as you say, corn syrup and all its varieties of things that spike blood sugar have the same inflammatory effect. So dealing with the kiddies with all these issues that the institutions are pushing for medication for, it's so sad. The poor child, firstly, the brain is starving for good nutrition, lots of protein and fats. There's a light aspect, but just looking at the nutrition, the poor child, you cannot control your behavior. Your neurotransmitters are misfiring. A lot of these brains are starving for the right thing. And this complete chaos in neurotransmitters that result from eating high blood sugar foods, the poor kids, and then they just chemically, synthetically medicated to sedate them. And can you imagine the conflict and the war that's going on in those little bodies and brains? So initially, obviously, it's really hard to get off sugar. And it's just that adjustment period where your body learns, oh, this is actually a much better sustainable source of energy. You know, when blood sugar goes up and down by eating the typical plant and grains and sugar, even other plant sugars, I must mention, that's considered healthy, you know, along with the blood sugar that will spike and crash, you crash your mood, your concentration, your energy, and it is a really yucky merry-go-round to be on every day and to live your life like that. It's not fun. So if you can push through the adjustment period, realize, oh, okay, I actually don't need anything. And what our listeners might find if they switch to an animal-based diet that keeps your blood sugar stable and your insulin secretion very low, is that you can eat a big breakfast and it should last you. If your breakfast is right, full of proteins and fats, that is top of my list of recommending to these kiddies that battle at school. Lots of protein, fat, eggs, butter, leftover meat, cheese, you know, gooi it and enjoy it. That should last them a very long time. And you might find the only time you're hungry again is for an early supper, which is also great. You want to eat a couple of hours before you go to bed. The only exception to this natural pattern of eating right would be if you're in front of a screen the whole day. So then refer back to our other talks on how to mitigate that and limit the harm. You need your sunlight and grounding. You need to protect yourself from the blue light that can completely throw your blood sugar out. But if you set that aside in terms of your nutrition, it is such a comfortable rhythm. Last year when my girlie and I went carnivore, she sheepishly admitted to me, Mom, yeah, I know I'm a much better person when I'm eating like this. I don't have to have an afternoon nap when I come home from school. My energy is good. I wake up feeling strong, and I know I'm more pleasant to be around. So what I also want to mention here is that listeners might think it is really expensive eating like this. But because your blood sugar is stable and you get completely out of craving and, blood sugar roller coaster ride, you eat a lot less and you spend a lot less in the kitchen, and you actually spend less on groceries because you're not looking for little gluten-free treats even. It's completely unnecessary and so expensive. You're not buying stuff that's going off in the fridge, and you don't cook with 3 pots going to, or 4. I sometimes add like the whole stove covered and trying to, get in all the right colors and all that. It's not necessary. So it makes things so simple. It's actually not more expensive. You'll spend a lot less time in the kitchen. And it's actually a really great way to eat. And some people might think, oh, what on earth am I going to make? Just like steak every night? That sounds so boring. So Glenn from Quantum Life and I are actually working on a recipe book that contains easy, family-friendly recipes that's mainly carnivore based with a little bit of low oxalate veg in there if you want. So once your gut is healed, you should be able to tolerate low oxalate veggies. And so that will probably have at least 25 recipes in, and all easy and quick. I'm like, no. I was also a mother of 3. It's all got to be working smarter and not harder. You can't spend hours in the kitchen. Every mom knows that. So how can you get the best nutrition with the least effort, and how to simplify that? We didn't talk about seed oils, but we're just talking about animal versus plant. Please, seed oils, disastrous on your health and your inflammation. Stay away, chuck it out. It shouldn't even be given away. So we're working on a recipe book right now that I'm hoping can help the listeners, like a nice little A5 that you can flip with ring binder, something like that. And on the low oxalate veggies, there are some simple veggies that's typically in your basic salad. So like lettuce, tomatoes without pips, a bit of onion, a bit of cucumber, and actually your nightshades are typically very good veggies to have in limited quantities. The reason is that they are high in nicotine. Now, nicotine is a whole other topic, but I believe that's the reason for a lot of people to get reactions from those veggies. The nightshades are the peppers, brinjals, potato, and tomato. And firstly, get rid of the pips. They're not helping you at all. And then they're high nicotine, and they can cause a bit of a detox reaction. But sadly, we often hear to avoid those. No, they're not harmful. They're actually some of your better ones, and along with the basic salad veg. So Glenn also developed a nice document with a transitional diet plan and a low oxalate veggie list that literally covers almost everything you can think of in terms of what's okay or harmful or beneficial to eat, depending on where your body is and where your gut is. Your listeners are free to obviously Google that, but the information on the internet is conflicting and overwhelming. So it's a little add-on that carries a small cost, in addition to the protocol, if someone wants like a lot of specific help and a lot of information. And then I think I mentioned last time the gut healing protocol that he developed. We're seeing great success with. I'm so excited about that because someone's life really changes when the gut lining is healed. They can absorb the nutrition they're getting in, eat the right thing. We put the right bacteria, the keystone bacteria, in an order back into the gut, and all of a sudden all sorts of symptoms start disappearing, and your brain functions better, you feel better, you feel happier. That is a very, very exciting thing.
Absolutely. And what I like so much about it is, especially with the probiotic aspect of it, that you make it yourself at home. So it's not this. And let me just also emphasize this to our listeners. This is not something that is going to drain your bank account like so many other new fads. And oh my gosh, this is the new flavor of the year in terms of what we're doing for weight loss and health. I did solid carnivore for 6 months and my grocery bill came down immensely. And with the protocol that Quantum Health and Pure Health are offering, it is really not expensive stuff. I was actually so surprised at the whole setup in terms of how it works and how cost effective it is, how much of it you can do yourself at home, and it's fun. I like making my own probiotic and the meat broth. It's nice. So yeah.
Awesome, Michelle. I think that's all from me for today.
Okay, cool. So, Marlies, in terms of these cost-effective and practical, delicious recipes for people to like maybe start, playing around with the eliminating more and more plant-based material, let's say. So, like you said, some people might go, oh, does that mean I just eat steak all the time? So it's not just steak. I mean, it's ground beef, it's bacon, chicken with the skin on, right? Then you have got different steaks. And I know I went through it was a short period of time where I suddenly developed like a meat aversion and I could not eat any more like steak kind of meat. And then I went on to chicken, and the butcher that I was getting from, they made some really lovely sausages that didn't have all the hectic nitrates and things in. So I did sausages and scrambled eggs and or omelets, and that kind of like saw me through that little meat aversion stage. So mix it up. If you somebody that is okay with doing the same thing day in and day out, that's fine. But I know there are a lot of people that do need some kind of variety. And so yeah, getting creative around how you mix your meats together, I think is important.
And I
Don't
think
get bored with it.
yes, and for a lot of mums, if you can show them how in a very simple way, they'll do it. Some things can happen over a weekend when weeknights are chaos, and it will include a ton of like what we call one pan wonders. I like one pan. You don't need an oven. Do it in the steel pan. Ideal, coconut oil or butter. Just get a good source of butter. And you can do so much in that. I'm actually amazed at the recipes I've been introduced to and what we're going to cover. Some I sent to moms so long is like little meatballs and little quiches that you can also put a whole lot of stuff in. What I haven't spoken about today either is the importance of liver, and I think we'll get to it when we talk about minerals and copper. But when we discuss eating the whole animal, the offal is actually dirt cheap and some of the most nutritious food. And I know if you told me a year ago I'd be eating liver and creating liver, I would say you are insane. You don't know what you're talking about. But some of it is just about understanding what it does to your body. It's high in copper and retinol, and we'll talk about it in minerals, but also in knowing what to do with it. And my kids will also not touch liver and offal unless I cut it in tiny pieces and put it in meatballs, put it in little quiches, put it in mince dishes, and or roll it with some bacon and cheese, or those kind of things. So we'll be putting out some useful ideas there that could make those lesser known but highly valuable source of nutrition out there.
Awesome. Thank you, Marilise. So what I would suggest that you ladies and gents do in the meantime is go and watch some videos from Dr. Ken Berry. I listened to a lot of his stuff, also Anthony Chaffee, and there's another Dr. Sean Baker, who also gives some very good information around why this is so important. And it's not coming from a biased perspective. These are doctors who live this lifestyle themselves too. I know with Dr. Ken Berry, he is carnivore, and I think his wife is ketovore. And he does give a lot of different comparisons and information around that. He's speaking from the perspective of a doctor who puts his patients on these particular eating programs. Dr. Anthony Chaffee, is he a cardiovascular surgeon, I think? So I think I might be speaking under correction there, but also very much around what it does to the heart. I think he is a cardiovascular surgeon. And then Dr. Sean Baker, he had personal issues himself and went on to this, and just how it's completely changed his life. So these are three very good sources.
They have lots of testimonies. Dr. McBride spoke about earlier, also has a whole book on GAPS testimonies. That's all animal-based and gut healing stuff. And I love it. Their testimonies of clinical practice, where they've seen inflammation come down, chronic disease being sorted out, psychiatric stuff being sorted out, is just so inspirational. So well worth looking at. So we on here not trying to claim that we're healing anything or anything like that. You know, go look at what the doctors say about what they have found works, and for real health and healing, that you don't have to necessarily be on drugs then for decades. That hasn't solve anything, and it all comes with different side effects. So yeah.
Great. All right, Marilise, thank you so much for another very informative and awesome episode. And we will obviously be back with another part of the series next week, and go into the minerals and supplementation aspect of it. And as I say, any questions that you guys may have, please put them in the comments below. And please subscribe to the channel to get notifications of when new episodes are being added. And please like and share. By liking the videos, the algorithm picks it up and pushes it out to more people who are interested in this kind of information. And that really helps us get the info out there. All right, everyone, God bless. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marilise. See you soon. Bye-bye.